Hello and welcome to another video. In today's video, I'm going to remember my cats, Thorium and Zoozee. So, I've been debating on how far to go back on this video. Like, do I want to tell all the stories of all my cats? And probably not. I think I probably have told stories about my cats before, but so this latest phase of cats, because I moved into my house on top of Rocky Butte and immediately got two cats, and I had to give them up for adoption. I put them back up on Craigslist and then took some people out on a farm, took them. One of the cats was just really not cool. He would literally shit in. They'd fight over food, and they were just tiny kittens, and he would shit in his brother's food bowl. Yeah. So it was kind of a bad scene, and I was still super busy then too. Like, I had to still going to the studio a bunch, and had a bunch of work around the house to do, because the house I bought was a remodeling project, right? So I then I ended up getting a girlfriend, and she bought a hairless cat and then went to LA for some months and left the cat with me. So I raised this little hairless cat, and it was just me and him. And then she came back, and then we broke up, and then she took the cat. And I was like, fuck, man, I love that cat. I miss the cat. I want a cat. So a few months went by, and then I was looking on Craigslist for cats, and I had found one that had like 6 toes, something like that. It was pretty cute. And I was going to get it. But one of the models that I was working with at the time, I had worked with her forever. She's like one of the first models I ever hired. And she's like, I just had kittens. I have a whole lot of kittens. And I'm like, oh, well, let me. And I picked the one, I think I picked the one that she liked. But she gave him to me, and that was Zeus. And Zeus, I got him in probably about June of 2016, I think. And I didn't want to so the house I had bought was like a rent to own situation, and I was having problems because basically the people that sold it to me kind of didn't fully, Anyway, so I was kind of worried about getting another cat, having 2 cats, and then losing my place, and then not, having to deal with cats as well, 2 instead of 1. So I was just going to hold off on getting a second cat until I owned my place. So I ended up buying my place in October of 16, and the people I was buying it from, this guy, it's a long story, but to fuck with me, he sent me to now my house was in Northeast Portland. He sent me to freaking Hillsboro to do the paperwork, just to be a jackass, right? Well, so then I was like, well, I'm going to get another cat. And it was like literally the very next day after I bought my house, I went online, I found a cat, and it was in Hillsboro. So I had to drive all the way out there, and that was Thorium. And I always called him my little tiger, because in the picture that on Craigslist, he was standing up with one paw up like this, down on one paw, and looking up. He was standing up high like a big tiger, And so sorry about the video quality. So then it was just Thorium and Zeus and me. And Thorium had medical issues. He, I don't know if, like, they neutered him when he was too young. And I don't know if that caused a problem. But he had this thing called pillow paw. Now, what pillow paw was is it looked like his feet were like cut up and healing, like the swollen and cracked, right? And so I had to take him in, and he was on steroid medicine for quite a while. And it would change his behavior. He would be different. And then he started getting a little like pimples around his mouth, right? So he had two reasons that he had to take steroids. And he was put on a special diet food as well. So in that time, oh, no, that was 2015. Was it 2015? Did I? Boy, I'm having a hard time remembering all the dates now. I might have bought it in 15 now that I think about it. That might have been. Boy. It's a hard time remembering. But, see, I lost my studio in May of 16. And I started shooting in my house at that point. And I think I already owned my house by then. So anyway, boy, my dates are a little messed up. So when I started shooting in my house, Zeus didn't like that. And he started peeing on stuff and shitting on stuff. And and when I was like at the studio all day every day for like a month and a half, moving out, packing it up, like one of those nights I came home and he literally peed on me. I was in bed and he just came right in and just peed on me in bed. Like, wow. And I threw him into the garage, and he spent the night in the garage. And he never really stopped. And so I started letting him outside. I mean, and what I really should have done is I should have given him back to Pepper. Because Pepper said, if you ever have any problems with him, just give him back to me. But I still loved him, and I wanted, and he was still my cat, and I didn't want to give up on him. So I just started letting him outside, and he was gone one time for like a day or so, and then it turned out he was in my neighbor's garage, and he was like stuck behind something. He was literally like pinned between like a box and the wall, and he just like he got in there and he couldn't get out. And she called me like, oh, because I told my neighbors, I'm like, I'm missing my cat. My hand, I wrap it and it's starting to come apart. So I'm like fiddling with it while I'm on the phone, while I'm doing this video. Sorry. It's such a hassle. So yeah, he was going in and out, and I guess it was okay. It wasn't the greatest situation, and he was going out at night, right? So he'd go out and stay out all night. And I had to put his food outside, and like one night, literally there was like two, like a raccoon and like a possum, like, and him all right there at his food, and I was just like, fuck. So it's hard to feed him and stuff, and then one night I was sitting there playing video games, And totally out of character for him, he came up and he put his paw on my leg and he jumped up in my lap and snuggled around real quick and then jumped down and went to the door. And I was like, that was kind of weird. And then I opened the door and I let him out. And he turned around and he looked at me. And he turned back around, he took a couple steps, and he turned back around and he looked at me again, like turning around looking over his shoulder. And I even said, "What's up, Zoozee? Something matter, right?" And that was the last time I ever saw him. He was saying, he knew. He knew. He was saying goodbye to me. And that next morning, I had to drive to the hotel to pick up the model, and a coyote looked me right in the eye as I drove down the hill. And I kind of knew right then, but I kept looking for him and kept looking for him, and it was like 6 months that I was pretty bummed out that I lost Zeus, right? So, and Thorium was bummed out too. He was literally just standing like right where Zeus would go in and out, just waiting for him every day, waiting for him, right? And so, I just didn't want to get a cat 5 seconds later to replace him. So it was like about 6 months later. And I had been looking for cats for a couple weeks. And all of us, I was playing video games again, and I just had this weird feeling to look at Craigslist for cats at like 10:30 at night. And somebody had just posted a litter of kittens like 20 minutes earlier. And I'd never call anybody that late or text anybody that late randomly like that. But I saw they just posted it, so I did. And there was this one cat, and she was so beautiful. She had a little white collar and little white paws. And I went and picked her up. And the mother kitty came and was like, meow, meow, meow. So I petted her really good. So I had the mom's smell on her. And Zoozee was tiny. I mean, she was so small. She fit in my hand. Just one hand. And I got her home. And back then I used this automatic cat machine toilet thing. Trying to remember the name of it. It would literally wash the litter after every cycle. Well, this jackass on eBay that was selling, because it used plastic litter. He sold replacement plastic litter, but it was a different gauge. He just like found some I could probably throw this in there, right? Well, it didn't dry as fast as the other stuff, so it clumped and clogged up the machine. And it freaked the fucking cats out. And they just hated that machine after that. And Zoozee, after that, she would pee in it and then get out and poop on the floor. She would pee and poop at the same time. Pee in the litter box and poop on the floor, right? So that was a hassle. And finally, I just gave up on that litter box. And just got like a huge bin, like deep litter boxes. I looked into it and just that was like the best. And you just can't find like a really deep, just standard litter box. They just want you to put like a little bit of litter. Well, I put like 8 inches of litter. So it was, and I named Zoozee because I used to call Zeus. I called him Zoozee. Zoozee. So then I named her Zoozee, which is Zoozee. And it was fabulous. I'm an empath, which is a curse. I wish I wasn't. It's basically if you don't want to bother looking it up and trying to, and just to, I have a sense that detects emotion, right? That's the most basic way to explain it, okay? So, and I communicate with my cats like this, like I talk to them like that, and also Try that with your cats. Look at your cats in the eye and then close your eye real quick and then like that. That tells cats, if they do that to you, they're telling you they're happy and everything's okay. So that's how we would communicate. And they were amazing. Every night she would come in, and when she was little, she would suck the sheets and leave little spitballs all over on my blanket. And she'd come in every night right before I go to sleep. Every night she'd come in and get pets and snuggle and suck the sheets and do the little paw thing. And Thorium, he would sleep with me every night. They would both sleep with me. She would sleep like in like at home. Um, I kept my room real cold, so she didn't sleep with me like for the whole night, but she'd just like stay there a while. But he'd sleep at the foot of my bed. And so then I sold my house, and the plan was I was going to buy this 26-acre farm in Damascus. It was like $500,000. And at the last minute, I just decided that I was sick of my partner fucking stealing money from the business and living this fucking ridiculous lifestyle and never buckling down to fucking take the business seriously. It was just like the business was his fucking bank account, and I was sick of him. Fucking dude, man. I mean, he was just the worst liar ever. Oh, I mean, just shit like this. Like, oh, I'm only taking $700 of cash with me to Japan. But then he drops the ATM slip on the floor of the fucking office. It says he took 2,000. You know, I mean, and the dude was traveling all over the world all the time, living like a fucking, like a rock star, expecting, everybody to work for shit for him so he could have this extraordinary lifestyle, right? Just, yeah. And I put up with this jackass for 10 years because first, the economy, and second, the investment that I had into this fucking thing. But basically, I was like, man, I'm going to fucking spend $500,000 on this. I'm going to need to pay all this mortgage for 30 fucking years or I'm going to lose it. And this fucking jackass is just going to take any money he wants. Oh, there's extra money. Oh, yeah, so I can just do all the work, have all the risk, and make none of the money. So, fuck this guy, right? I'm sick of him. And I'm sick of the industry. Like, the people. Like, it's just always, Anyway, that's not the story I'm telling right now. So, I decided to fucking get this up. Now, I sold the house and I moved into this little RV. There was like a 99 and tiny. One little slide pushed the couch out. My poor cats had to live in there for 2 months, and they hardly had any room to go. And the house I moved out of was 3,400 square feet, so they had all the room in the world. So then, when I spent 2 months in that, like, thinking I was gonna buy that property. Excuse me, and waiting for everything to go through, and then right when it was like literally, I was like, probably could have been in the house in like 10 days or something like that. I was just like, I'm not going to do it. And I decided just to have no mortgage property and build a house, right? So I bought another RV right then and there. Because I had, a couple $100,000 in the bank to get whatever I needed. Or, yeah, right about a little over. So, anyway. So I went and bought what I thought, and it was a very nice RV. Very nice. 2013 Forest River Wildcat Max with, remote control, remote control leveling, remote control awning, remote control slides. Like, it had like all the options. And then I put a fucking badass solar system in it. and other options and all this stuff. And we got out there to the property, and I never wanted to have outdoor cats again after Zeus because, especially out where I was living. But I mean, the poor cats were in this, I mean, even my new RV was still tiny compared to a 3,400 square foot house, and these poor animals don't have anywhere to run and all this stuff. Although they would, and they had their cat pole and they'd run up it and run back down and run from the kitchen or from the back to the front to the back, and would chase each other. And so I had started to let them go outside. And the with Zoozee, it was tough because she was more independent than Thorium. Thorium would straight up come when called. Thorium come, he would just come. She was a little more independent. I would have to catch her, basically. I mean, she only came back into the house on her whole own accord maybe 3 or 4 times out of letting them out, you know, I would try to let them out every day. Um, that I was there all day. Um, like when I had to run errands, it wasn't good because like if I let them out and then I needed to leave and then I had to get them back and then I couldn't, like I had to leave them outside, and so that was why I wouldn't do that. And the uh, the weather. So on then like really bad days, I wouldn't let them out either. And they go out for some hours, just depending. I mean, you can see them in the video that I made called "Animal Proof Fence Part 1." You can see how they just follow me around like little dogs. They just like, if I wasn't doing something that was like clanging and banging or doing something, like they were just right with me. What are you doing? What are you doing? Like they just follow me around and come up and get pets, and they were just my cats. So um, I just take him to the vet, and Thorium, he had to get teeth pulled last year, and it cost me like $1,000. I didn't even know that teeth care was a thing on cats. Like honestly, I had cats when I was in my 20s, late teens and 20s, and never any dental nothing. Like never. I didn't even, I thought that it just wasn't a thing or whatever, right? Well, I get and even at my vet in Portland, they never said anything. And I had a really nice vet in Portland, like super like top notch vet in Portland. Never said one word about cat teeth health to me. Okay, so then I moved to Bend, and I find the same like caliber. It's the same. There's a special vet organization that if you belong to this vet organization, then you're higher quality than just a standard vet. And so that's what my vet in Portland was. And I looked up that same vet in Bend. And the vet in Bend was like all about the teeth, and I was like, oh wow. And so he looked at Thorium's teeth and he's like, yeah, he needs to come in. I was like, oh shit. And things were not going very good at that time. And I took him in there, and he had to have 2 or 3 teeth pulled. And it was $1,000 something. And so I was like, well, and I got to keep. I can't have my cat just toothless. So that was last year, and now I also started letting them outside, and they were not outside cats, so there was some shots that they had to get. So I had just taken them to the vet, and like 10 days or something like that before the fire, and they had to go back again. They went for one set, and then they had to go back, and they had another appointment, and I took them both in at the same time, and then they were gonna go back in again. So they had a vet appointment, and during the vet appointment, the vet told me they were too heavy. They were eating too much, and I didn't think I was overfeeding them, but I didn't realize what little amount of food they're supposed to be getting. A quarter cup per cat twice a day. And I was giving them like probably 2 cups a day, right? So I was giving them like 50% more food than they needed to have, right? So for the last couple weeks, I'd been cutting down their food, and they were not happy. Thorium especially. Like, that guy was literally at the food bowl. He would go to the food bowl so often, like, and just take a couple bites. Like, it was so weird. He would just take a couple bites and then go walk over and jump in my lap and then get back down and go over and take a couple more bites. And he just did that all the time. So they were not happy right before then. And the day of the fire, I went to Bend to get, it was my Bend day, so I just had to do my normal run. And I came back, and they were standing at the door when I got back, and it was a nice day, and they wanted to go out, and it still was going to be light, so I just let them out. I said, fuck it. Well, they went over into this place that I had been dumping gray water. So I dumped gray water at trying to dump at different places. But ever since I moved the RV to where it is now, where it was, like, I had been dumping the gray water in this one spot because my hoses weren't long enough to get it to any other place. So this is like one of the next projects to run some gray water infrastructure to get the gray water up even farther away. I wasn't really worried about it too much. Every place I've dumped gray water has had positive effects from the gray water. Like, I literally have mentally noted every place I've dumped gray water, and periodically I check those spots just to kind of see what's going on with it, and it was all positive. Well, the cats were over there eating grass and walking in the gray, and I was like, oh, and I just wanted to, like, get them to go someplace else. Well, they thought I was like chasing them or something, so they ran and hid. And I was like, oh shit. So now they're thinking I'm mad at them or something just because I was trying to get them out of, and they were hiding. And they'd hide under the shipping containers, right? And when they go under there, it was not easy, and it pissed me off because, they go in there to hide away from me, and then I couldn't get them, and then it'd just be like, fuck, come on, right? And it would take hours if they if they got in that mode to get them back. So they were doing that, and now it had gotten dark, and I went outside to look for them, and they were under the frickin' backhoe. Like, and in relativity to where the fire was, they were as far as they could get away from where the fire started without being out in the open. And I was walking up to him, and Thorium started hissing at me. And he has never hissed at me. Not once. The whole time I had him, he never hissed at me once. And he ran away from me again. And Zoozee, she just let me walk right up to her and pick her up. But she seemed so weird. Like something had happened. Like she was just like, frozen. And then he was like outside, and that was super weird. Like, she was the only one that ever would be a pain in the butt and be outside when she wasn't supposed to be. But now it was him. So I think they knew. I think they knew something was going to happen. So he came to the door, And I let him in. And it wasn't very long after that 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 the fire started. And I thought I could put it out. I I, I should have just grabbed my cats. Or, I have about a million things going through my head, and the people, the psychologists said that's magical thinking. But I've done it my whole life. Every time there's a problem, I go over that problem a million times. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? I just beat myself up and I beat myself up, and I've done that my whole life. Every fucking thing that ever goes wrong, I replay it a million times. So I try to never fucking make that mistake again. And I'm like, why didn't I just grab my cats? Why didn't instead of trying to get the truck to the burning RV, why didn't I hook up to the not burning RV and just pull it out of the way? Or why didn't I remember there was a fire extinguisher like right inside the door of my RV? I forgot about that until like literally last night. I was laying in bed and remembered it was there. Why didn't I scoop the backhoe with like dirt or something and dump it? I just failed. So they died, and I miss them. And that's the story of my cats. Peace.